Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Gut Feeling, written by Bailey Master. Belzebub was nothing if not cautious. An ambassador called forth by the council of his people. He was personable, intelligent, and one of the few of his race that didn't possess their natural naivety, thanks to his gift of skepticism. In his years of service, he had amassed a body of individuals charged with defense and support of him in difficult situations. It was no weakness to acknowledge one's shortcomings instead of trying to bluff his way through interactions he knew nothing about. He listened to the words, warnings, and calculations of those with good track records and recommendations. He could not trust himself to make judgment calls, but he trusted others in judging of those who could. That was why today he left his ship with no less than 8 Xeno bodyguards, informants, and interpreters at his side. The interaction that would take place today would herald the end of the war that had lasted for over 300 years. The ship rested behind him on the dock, engines cooling. Before him, the ambassador of the colony waited patiently, as was ever their strength, patience, and subterfuge, countered by the brute power of his people. Every time they had bared their throats in a show of peace, the colony had broken their packs. But this time, it would be different. Belzebub scanned his retinue for peace of mind. 2 machine beings incapable of rest, constantly evaluating their surroundings. In front of them was his interpreter of language and cultural significance. His interpreter of situation and context. 2 bodyguards from his own people who both carried enough armaments to flatten the city. And a dangerous-looking creature from the rancid prisons of a fringe world. It sniffed the air, continuously on the lookout for blood hunger. Alongside that creature was the newest addition to his retinue, a human woman with a long black hair, a tall rifle of some sort, and several sidearms. She had come highly recommended as an expert in unseen threats. Though the description was vague, Belzebub had erred on the side of caution and submitted a request of service. She'd been on his payroll for 2 months now, and aside from the odd words here and there, had not truly contributed much that could not be done by others. He was beginning to wonder if her services were redundant. They approached the colony ambassador, who stood alone beside the entrance to the packed hall. "Hi-ho, Belzebub, a pleasure to see you." "Let us hope it's the last time, Nogoran," Belzebub responded. "Where are the rest of the ambassadors? Baladan, Ferrati?" Nogoran spoke smoothly to ease his anxieties. "They wait below, Belzebub. No need for concern." Belzebub turned to his retinue. The machines flashed green. The specialist waved assent. The bodyguard stood ready, and the beast thing grumbled with hunger. Only the human seemed put off. Her eyes narrowed. Odd. She was usually so reserved. Belzebub addressed her. "Is there any concern, Lydia?" She spoke quietly, eyes shifting to the side. "Something's wrong." Nogoran was quick to assuage her misgivings, maybe too quick, but Belzebub could never tell. "Of course not. Merely a small change in traditional reception. No need to worry." Lydia dropped a hand to her belt and made some motion that Belzebub couldn't decipher. "I'm certain. Let's proceed then." Belzebub followed Nogoran down the path into the packed hall. His mind, shackled as it was by his trusting nature, could not see what was hidden. Yet he knew that he was a blind child being led by those he'd been told could see. They filed into the packed hall after Nogoran. Belzebub turned back to address his retinue and saw the human's eyes widen as she stepped across the threshold. "Lydia?" The human female unslung her rifle and primed it. "We need to leave immediately. There's a trap of some kind up ahead." Belzebub looked from her to the rest of his advisors. The machine showed no alert, his interpreters calm, his bodyguards relaxed, and even the beast creature showed no sign of a disturbance. Was the human to be trusted? She had shown no affinity for independent reports of danger before. "Belzebub, you need to get out of here now." He was nothing if not cautious. Belzebub shouted behind him as he ran back up the exit, followed closely by his bodyguards and the machines. Apologies, Nagaran. One of my advisors suggests foul play, and I'm led to believe her. Another time, perhaps. Nagaran turned back towards them, hands spread. Please be... The human shot went clean through his head, revealing it to be a hologram. Nagaran shattered. The beast thing began to growl. Unpleasant sounds reminiscent of soldiers began to echo about the chamber. The doors leading back to the dock had been locked from the outside, of course. His bodyguard set to making short work of the blockade. Belzebub turned back to the human, who stood at the bottom of the stairs alongside the beast thing. Lydia activated some sort of device, and a shield popped up before her, blocking the stairwell. Through the murky green haze of the shield, Belzebub could see the mass of mercenary soldiers, perfect for an ambush had they ventured further in. Come, Lydia, doors are open. They left the lair of the Coolney to see enemy forces closing in on his ship. Had they waited any longer, their only means to aggress would have most definitely fallen into enemy hands. They rushed for the ship, machines and bodyguards on either side, giving and receiving fire as they blocked Belzebub with their bodies. The humans sprinted alongside them, long rifle coughing out bursts of light. The beast thing gnawed on something unpleasant, while the interpreters ran to keep up with them, clothing flapping. They piled into the ship. The pilot immediately cycled the engines and took off. Belzebub paused. It should have taken over half an hour for the engines to prepare for suborbital flight. Instead of fighting off a horde of mercenaries, they were already safe in the air and heading for the nearest Order outpost. Belzebub composed himself and approached the human who was performing maintenance on her weapon. She looked at him, dark eyes satisfied. He gestured to the pilot. You knew. You warned of immediate evacuation. Call it a hunch. Now, how did you know? The machines reported no threat though. Some things, Lydia said as she popped out the power cartridge for her cleaning, can't be recognized. They have to be felt. It felt wrong, and it was. She clicked the cartridge back into place. I learned long ago to always trust my gut. Belzebub returned to the bridge, mind humming along at the events that had taken place. He didn't understand, even in the slightest, but the human had obviously warned and saved them from what would have been a fairly unfavorable ambush. Belzebub looked over his retinue, mostly unscathed, and decided that the human had already earned her pay up to that point, and would most likely do so in the future, even if it was just a gut instinct. End of story. Story number 2, Mechanical Rhythms, written by Marilyn of Many. I opened the door to the engine room, ready to declare lunch delivery, but the place was so loud with machinery that I decided to wait. Instead, I shut the door behind me and carried the tray of sealed containers past all the view screens, gauges, and schematics, and into the labyrinth of passages beyond. They call it an engine room, but really it's a whole complex on the spaceship, and it is not usually this loud. All the thumps, rolls, and dings seem to be at max volume. When I reached the part that was normally smooth walls and amorphous shapes, I saw why. All the covers were off. Some were retracted into the ceiling, some swung open like window shutters, and more laid clattering up the walkway along with chaotic spread of tools. From somewhere amongst the exposed wires and pipes, a gruff voice muttered angrily. Hey, Mimi, I said over the whooshing noises of pipes. I've got lunch for you. Thanks, said the voice, sounding tired and gravelly. I found it amusing that our engineer sounded like any number of crusty old mechanics back home. Mimi's voice was balanced out by the fact that his name was Mimi, and he looked like an octopus. Put it on top of the big toolbox, will you? He said, sticking a tentacle out from behind something shaped like a pipe organ. Sure, I said. I was pretty sure I knew which one he meant. It's heated but sealed, so you can get it when you're ready. I think I'll take a break now, he said. This is obnoxious and a half. More pale green tentacles emerged, followed by his round octopus head, and Mimi clambered expertly over the mess to plop down next to the food tray. I looked around. What's happening? Eggskin said you were working on something that might take a while. It wasn't supposed to, Mimi griped as he twisted the lid off. I was just checking the efficient fuel use, since something wasn't firing right, and now I've been tracking the flipping flailing problem all day. He dumped something into his mouth that looked like grapes. I had other things I was gonna do, he grumbled. Sounds annoying, I said. Made any progress, at least? Oh, sure, he replied, pointing a tentacle over his head at the set of pipes. Track the problem to that area. One of them isn't in sync with the rest, and I'm not looking forward to disassembling the housing so I can figure out which. The pipes were a dull coppery brown, without any of the translucence of certain other engine parts. Yeah, I guess you can't really see from here, huh? Nope, Mimi said, prying at another container. If I ever meet the pebble brain who designed this ship, I will have words with them. I moved closer, picking up the sounds of these engine parts over the other kinds. A kind of a whoosh-whir-wheat. Can you tell anything by listening? Mimi spoke over a mouthful of food. Like what? You said one was out of sync. Does it make a difference noise? With the wave of tentacles that I took to mean I doubted, or maybe even you're welcome to try. Mimi focused on his lunch. Well, why ever not? I stepped over more tools to where I could stick my face up close to the noisy things. At least this part wasn't the loudest. That honor was reserved for the whoomp screech rhythm from the boiler-looking deedie down the way. I didn't know what any of the stuff did. When I listened from up close, I found a surprisingly catchy beat to the noises. It reminded me of a dishwasher my parents had when I was a kid. Fond memories of dancing in front of it. I've always taken my small joys where I find them, and I'm pretty sure that stemmed from a good upbringing. Any family that's encouraged kids to dance to dishwasher noises is one that can find fun anywhere. I moved along with the rows and pipes, listening to each in turn, nodding to the beat until I found something that didn't match. Whoosh-whir-wheat, whoosh-whir-wheat, whoosh-whir-whir. It's this one, I said, standing back and pointing. What? How can you tell? Mimi demanded. It dropped the beat, I said. What? It doesn't match the rhythm of the others. Mimi scrambled over, lunch forgotten. You can hear that? Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious when you listen for it, I said, giving him a space. I watched as he clambered around, listening intently with each ear holes in the side of his squishy head, sometimes pressing between the pipes in a way someone with solid bones could never manage. There was a reason strong arms made good mechanics, but apparently not all the reasons. I have no idea what you're hearing, Mimi declared, putting back out. It's this one, I repeated. The other ones are going whoosh-whir-wheat. This one gets stuck on the whir. Mimi stared at me for a moment. Stay right there, he said, scrambling down the bank of dials and levers. Tell me if you hear any change. The third one, right? Yeah. I listened from close to the pipes while he adjusted things down at the bottom. Gradually, the rhythm shifted. Oh, it's getting better. See if you can tell me when it matches, Mimi said. Almost there, I said. It's making the wheat noise now, just at the wrong time. I nodded along, drumming on the air to the rhythm of the other pipes while pipe number 3 gradually synced up. Wait, too far, I told Mimi. It's too early now. Muttering something indistinct, Mimi adjusted more dials. There, you got it. I stood back up, grinning. You sure? Mimi asked from the console. Yeah, it's perfect match now. Ready to dance to. I shimmied in place, appreciating the beat and not particularly caring if it wasn't dignified. I'll run a diagnostics again, Mimi said, as his tentacle walked over to a different control panel. If that fixed it, I'll be amazed. I danced amongst the tools for a few seconds it took to run the diagnostics. Welp, Mimi said. It's official. I'm amazed. Did we fix it? I asked, standing up with a grin. It appears that we did, he said, waving his tentacle in a baffled sort of way. He looked from me to the panel. Thanks, sir. You're useful to have around. And you're welcome, I replied. Happy to help. Now can you finish your lunch before Ixkin starts griping about organic maintenance? Well, we can't have that, now can we? Mimi said. Maybe I'll eat somewhere quieter and put that sound baffles back in place afterwards. Great idea, I agreed. As catchy as this music is, it is a bit loud for lunch. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons, Dragzoon WRE, Quantum Wednesday, Ambrose Cattell, Lord Ashrakal, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.